What you see in front of you is gameplay from the new crazy fun beat 'em up game, Valhalla Showdown. Valhalla Showdown is an up to 4-player, free-for-all local multiplayer beat 'em up game where players get the opportunity to play as Vikings. The main mechanic of the game involves dropkicking, punching, jumping, and using weapons to destroy anyone who opposes you. The goal of the game is to get the most kills by the end of the round to be claimed as the Viking with the most glory. One of our main design goals was centered around giving the game that pick up and play feel, meaning that we wanted all players to be able to learn how to play very quickly when trying it out for the first time. One of the first main key design decisions I like to talk about is the camera angle. Now, the camera in our game has had a bit of an evolution over the course of the project. In the image you can see right now, this was our first iteration of the isometric top-down camera. The problems that we have with this camera involve players not being able to line up their drop kicks on each other properly, as well as there was a big design challenge in terms of level design because it didn't leave us much space to work with. Since we struggled a while with the isometric camera, the next fix we had to this was try to do a different angle. This angle was the 4-person split screen. Now, we originally wanted to have 4 players anyway in the game, so this wasn't too far off track. However, after doing a lot of testing with this, realized that we weren't getting enough feedback for the player when they're playing in this view, as well as we wanted to kind of stick with our original idea of having it be that everybody on one screen party beat 'em up game kind of feel. Eventually, after a lot of discussion throughout the team and other feedback from our mentors, we decided it would be wise to go with an iteration on our first camera. This would be the dynamic camera overview, which you are looking at right now. The way it works is that the camera will actually pan in and around the gameplay based on the player location on the level. We decided this camera angle would work best because it actually draws players right into the action and gives them the chance to see up close for themselves just what's going on when they're playing. As well as it also made it easier for us as level designers to be able to create a level that allows for this kind of camera in terms of being able to use our verticality more. In terms of storyboarding for our game, it really came down to how we actually were setting up the level. Because in our game, there really wasn't a whole lot of narrative. The idea was you were just kind of fighting there with your friends, for the most glory in that current moment. So, like I said, it really had to do with the level design. In terms of what I'm speaking about, are things like, high risk, high reward zones, where we expected the main combat area to be, how to, give players a reason to use that rest of the verticality of the level, making sure there's a proper balance between traps and safe play area as well. Essentially, when it came down to it, what we had to do was try to predict player behavior. Now, we did that in 2 ways. One, through how I mentioned earlier, through the level design, and two, through making, possible situations. These situations are seen through scenarios that we kind of predict would happen during gameplay based on our playtesting, as well as any sort of other things that we thought would be worth looking at. So now we're going to get into the gameplay breakdown. The way we set up our game Valhalla Showdown was kind of in parts to give players, that proper learning curve during the game. So at the beginning, we have players just kind of begin by duking it out with each other, and then we have events that happen at certain given times. So the first event that happens is actually the weapon spawn. As you can see, as soon as the weapon spawns, a player in the blue is immediately running up to the second floor to get that weapon and try to use it to take out some opponents. This was actually one of our techniques to make sure that players were using the whole level in its verticality. So now that the players have the gist of the mechanics and they know that they can use weapons, as well as have to watch out for some of the other spikes along the walls, we then wanted to introduce our favorite trap, the minecart. The minecart is probably the most outrageous and annoying trap there is, however, it adds to that fun gameplay and craziness. Not to mention the minecart also forces people into tight areas and forces them to engage each other in combat, which was one of our other main design goals as well, was to make sure that players were constantly wanting to engage each other. Players will continue to battle out the rest of the match until the last 10 seconds is shown on screen and then the scoreboard is displayed afterwards. That's when they can turn to their friends and say how much they kicked the other person's ass. We had the opportunity to bring our game to Level Up Toronto to the student competition and ended up doing very well. We were very pleased with the amount of people that we had come to our booth and try out our game and the amount of fun everyone was having. We did end up taking third place for artistic achievement, which is a big pat on the back in the day after all the hard work we put into the game. Thanks for listening, and this is Suplex Games, AJ Luciani, signing out.